Hello friends! We are back with another recap video, this time for patch 5.3, Reflections in Crystal. A funny story about this one, I had actually begun writing a script for a 5.1 to 5.2 recap about a week ago now, and when I was about to finish it, I realized that I needed to look up some non-replayable cutscenes. And when I did that, I noticed that I actually had already done a video on those patches. Somehow I totally forgot that I had done that, but for better or worse, Endwalker has been delayed by 2 weeks, so in relation to the expansion, I have a video coming out right when I wanted it to be. Thank you so much to everyone who's been so patient. I know a lot of people have been asking for this video. It's been a crazy year, but we're finally getting to it, so why don't we just dive right in? We begin patch 5.3 chatting with Morin, who wants to thank us for telling him and everyone else of the Crystarium the truth about Ardbert and his friends. At our behest, he agrees to teach us all he can about the Warriors of Light. That is, the legend of the Warrior of Light, not just the ones we have come to know. Going with him to the Cabinet of Curiosity, we're joined coincidentally by Reen, Alfino, and Alice, all of whom are interested in hearing Morin's lecture as well. As it turns out, use of the title Warrior of Light can be found all over the history of Norvrandt, and seems to be interchangeable with the idea of a hero. Alfino notes that the people of the source use the phrase in a similar manner. The only consistent factor seems to be the presence of Hydaelyn, though the implications of that are still a mystery. In the end, we are interrupted by 3 children who immediately recognize us and ask for help from the Warrior of Darkness in becoming Warriors of Light themselves. After spending some time with them and learning their reasons for wanting to become heroes, we find ourselves returning to where we once shared a moment with Ardbert to reflect. Only to find Elidibus there, having somehow been compelled to come to that spot alongside us. With our echo, we're granted a short vision of Elidibus being welcomed as a member of the Convocation of 14 as the emissary. Elidibus states his intentions, to strike us down and save the star, as he once promised the Convocation he would do. As he is about to leave, the Ascian also notes that Emet-Selch saw something in us, though he cannot remember if he knew us in another life or not. The Exarch appears at the end of the conversation, and though Elidibus attempts to incapacitate him, the emissary disappears without any other trouble. G'raha, as it turns out, has been sent away by Bek-Luke to take a rest. The strain of their research is beginning to take a toll on him, both literally and metaphorically. As their studies have continued, more and more of G'raha has begun to crystallize by the grace of the tower. He tells us of the people of the Source, in his timeline, who risked everything in order to send him to the First. Our conversation is interrupted by Reen, here to call us back as Thancred has collapsed upon his return to the Crystarium. The link between his body and soul continues to weaken, it seems, prompting us to return to the Source to consult Kryl of our plan to bring the Scions home. While we do that, those on the First will look into the rumors of suspicious individuals clad in black that have been appearing across the realm. Thancred believes them to be Ascians, trying to give credit to Elidibus's call for new heroes. Things on the Source are dire. The Scions have all taken a turn for the worse, and Kryl is doing everything she can just to keep them alive. After she has been updated on the plan, she takes a moment to go and fetch a friend of hers who is an expert in the study of Allag. As it turns out, that friend is Rambros, who we studied the Crystal Tower with. Unfortunately, he has next to no advice to offer us. Memory transference was the domain of the Allagan royal family, and their secrets died with them. He came instead to ask us to pass on a message to G'raha, to tell him that his duty is done, and those he left behind are still working to make sure the tower will someday stand again as a beacon of hope. It is time for him to follow his heart. We do exactly as asked, returning to the First and passing along Rambros' words, and a slice of Archon loaf, a Charlene specialty from Tataru. While we were gone, G'raha and Bek-Luke have finished their initial prototypes for the spirit vessels. Infused with the crystallized essence of G'raha's blood, they should serve as suitable vessels, and testing them has begun. Alice notes that there are, in fact, 6 vessels, one extra than they need. G'raha plans to use himself as a test subject and, potentially, return to the source with the rest of the scions. The only snag being that, while their bodies are currently without souls, his on the source is not. There is no telling what might happen when the Exarch's soul attempts to join with the soul of G'raha of the source, and yet he has decided to take that risk. While the rest of the scions are going to spend the time seeking out and putting a stop to the black-masked Ascians, Thancred implores us to go check on Y'shtola, who has gone to Academia Endaya on her own. There we find her collapsed, and Elidibus blocks our path to her. He claims that her state is due to the weakened link between body and soul, but that the situation has worked out in his favor. We're given another vision by the Echo, showing us just how faded Elidibus' memories now are. He can hardly remember the convocation, much less why he does what he does. Once we're back to reality, he spirits Y'shtola away and bids us to follow him if we want her back. In Amaurot, he has set up a sort of trial in order to test our strength, our enemies being recreations of those we have fought and fought with along our journey. Elidibus walks us through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows we've faced thus far, culminating in a fight with Ardbert, the fallen warrior. We defeat everything thrown our way, and just as soon as we finish the trial, Y'shtola returns, having freed herself from captivity. She accuses Elidibus of being a primal, fueled by a desire for the world's salvation. This is confirmed by Elidibus before he disappears, planning to become stronger before challenging you again. As Y'shtola goes to gather her things, we find a peculiar crystal on the ground, and then another, ultimately finding 13 crystals, each depicting a constellation. Hythlodaeus, one of the illusions of the ancients, joins us, remarking that each crystal is a symbol of one of the convocation, containing an account of each of their lives. After we appraise him of the situation with Elidibus and receive his encouragement, Hythlodaeus gives us one last star, a crystal for the 14th member. While not allowed to have a symbol officially, as they had defected and left their seat vacant out of opposition to Zodiark's summoning, it was made in secret by a close friend. It seemingly lacks the account of their life, but it does contain the power to summon the stars to their side, and Hythlodaeus gives it to us, hoping that it will answer our call in a time of need. He notes that it is finally back where it belongs, before disappearing at Y'shtola's entrance. It is time to return to Yulmore. As we discuss the situation with the rest of our party, another star shower begins, this time including a mirage of Amaurot in the sky. During the chaos, a spectre materializes out of light and rushes our party. While they are held back by Thancred, more join the swordsmen, and Urianger identifies the magic bringing them there as the same summoning magic the Exarch used to spirit them away. Chai News provides us an airship to use to retreat back to the Crystarium, though we are unfortunately struck down by a spectral dragoon. We are aided in our fight not just by the Scions, but by the people who have helped us all throughout our journey through Norvrandt. The miners of Twine, Faerie and the fairies of Ilmeg, and even the hunters of the cardinal virtues do all they can in order to safely deliver us to the Crystarium. Alice and Urianger realize what has happened, that these spectres are heroes from other worlds. All of the cries from both them and the people of Norvrandt for salvation are making Elidibus stronger. As we are about to press on, an army of spectres appear, and the Scions resolve to stay behind in order to allow our escape. As we make our way towards the city, we find G'raha and Beclug, having just barely escaped from Elidibus, who has stolen G'raha's completed spirit vessel and taken control of the Crystal Tower. As a result, G'raha's body is turning more and more into crystal from the strain. He does, however, have a plan on how to subdue Elidibus. The two of us head into the tower, only stopping along the way so that G'raha may share a few words with Lena, all too similar to a goodbye. Inside the tower, the crystallization of G'raha's body continues, and he muses on our shared past of the foray into the Crystal Tower, as well as how he feels he was right to put his trust in us. He tells us of how, when he was awoken after so many years of slumber, and had the choice to turn his back on it all, it was no choice at all. That he had to play his part to avoid the tragedy that had caused the 8th umbral calamity. More spectres bar our path, and it is G'raha's turn to make a stand, insisting that we will see each other again. At the top of the tower awaits Elidibus, the last of the Unsundered. While he may not remember why or for who he struggles on nonetheless, intent on resurrecting Zodiark and those who gave their lives to summon him. Calling forth champions from beyond the rift, Elidibus ascends as the Warrior of Light, and it is our duty as the Warrior of Darkness to defeat him. Using the Crystal of Azem, the Shepherd to the Stars and the 14th member of the Convocation, we summon forth our own companions and begin the fight at the Seat of Sacrifice. Aided by a memory of Emet-Selch, we manage to finally defeat Elidibus, and G'raha catches up with us just in time. As it turns out, the tower has properties similar to white auricite, and together we put an end to the Ascian. In his last moments, Elidibus appears as he did as an ancient, and we return to him all of the Convocation crystals, minus Azem's. He finally remembers for who he fought. His people, his brothers, his friends. Elidibus fades, and G'raha collapses from the strain of what he has done. Crystallizing as he speaks, but finally free from his duty as the Exarch, he asks one favor of us, that we bring him on our next journey. He pulls on his hood and stands before the throne, his body fully turning to crystal, where the Exarch may watch over Norvrandt for the rest of its days. As his soul was not charged like the Scions, we are able to transfer him fully into his spirit vessel without the use of a familiar. And then it is the Scions' turn to be placed within their vessels, but not before each of them have had their turns to say their goodbyes. We join each of them, going to the inn at Journey's End, Yulmore, Ilmeg, Sotherbow, and Twine. We even make a stop of our own in order to deliver Ardbert's Crystal of Light to Seto, his Amaurot, giving them one last chance to reunite. After everyone has reconvened at the Crystarium, Reen takes the chance to say her thanks and her goodbyes to her friends. She, of course, will be staying behind as she is a native of the First. After her piece, Lena and the other citizens of the Crystarium appear to see the Scions off, thanking all of us for everything that we have done for the realm, and wishes us off with a smile and a message for the Exarch. That he need not worry about them, and they wish for him to live his life to the fullest. The soul and memory transference begins and concludes successfully, and then we return to the source, bringing the vessels with us. Placing the respective vessels with their bodies, we wait, and are overjoyed to see that our plan has worked. All of the Scions are awake in their bodies, though they do feel a bit sluggish and stiff. As all is well at the Rising Stones, we rush off towards the Crystal Tower. The vessel, as Elidibus had demonstrated, also works as a key to the tower, where our dear friend sleeps. Days later, the Scions are up and about, trying on the new garments and weapons that Tataru has provided them with. Kryl joins us, exhausted from the task of helping to restore the protections around the Crystal Tower. Our friend arrives after her, and Ryanje asks him if he will accept their invitation now that he is free to go wherever he pleases. With our encouragement, he accepts, introducing himself as G'raha Tia of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. In another place, as we all run off to stop a group of rampaging hippogriffs in Mordona, Xenos Ye Galvus awakens from his dream of the final days. He is joined by a white-robed Ascian who appraises him that his preparations are going well. Fandaniel, one of the sundered Ascians exalted by the unsundered, is now in league with the prince and using Asahi Sas Brutus's body to sow discord in Garlemald. With the last of the Unsundered gone, Fandaniel is now able to act completely unimpeded, for he had no interest in their plans anyways. Meanwhile, Xenos yearns only to see his closest friend once again on the fields of battle. And with that, we conclude Final Fantasy XIV Patch 5.3 Reflections in Crystal. I generally try to keep my personal opinions out of these videos, but it's hard to talk about 5.3 without mentioning that I do believe it to be an amazing conclusion to the Shadowbringers storyline. With the delay for Endwalker, I got the chance to split up my recap videos for 5.3 to 5.55 into two, and it was an easy choice to give this patch a little bit more time in the spotlight. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.